Up next in the broadcast, Pyongyang rejects President Park's proposal for family reunions over the Lunar New Year holiday and says Seoul retains a warlike posture. Korea Central Bank leaves the nation's key interest rate unchanged at 2.5% for the 8th straight month on improving economic conditions. And in a bid to transform the nation's foreign direct investment levels from one of the worst to one of the best in the OECD, new laws will streamline regulations, freeze income tax rates, and extend working visas. Primetime News begins now.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. It's Thursday, January 9th here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I am Geun-hye.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thank you so much for joining us. We begin with the disappointing news out of North Korea. The reclusive state has turned down South Korea's offer for talks on possible reunions for families separated by the Korean War.
Pyongyang did, however, leave the door open for future dialogue under certain preconditions. Our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee reports.
North Korea has rejected South Korea's proposal to discuss a resumption of family reunions for those separated during the Korean War. Thursday's response came 3 days after South Korean President Park Geun-hye expressed hopes of holding the humanitarian event sometime during the Lunar New Year holiday, which falls in the last week of January. In a statement on Thursday, the North said there had been no change in Seoul's warlike posture and said for a successful round of humanitarian exchanges to take place, the right atmosphere must be created. Although not named directly, Pyongyang seems to be referring to the upcoming joint military exercise between Seoul and Washington that takes place annually between February and March. It also said that in order for the two Koreas to discuss the matter of family reunions, they must also address issues raised by the North, most likely the resumption of South Korean tours to the Mount Kumgang resort. The North, however, did not slam the door shut on family reunions altogether. The statement said the two sides could meet for talks when the South is willing to discuss the issues proposed by the North. South Korea's Ministry of Unification expressed regret over North Korea's rejection, saying humanitarian issues should be dealt with separately.
It is regrettable that North Korea is linking annual military drills with humanitarian issues. South Korea maintains its stance that the issue of family reunions will be dealt with separately from the issues raised by the North.
The Unification Ministry called on North Korea to accept Seoul's proposal for talks on resuming family reunions and added that the North should show its sincerity in mending ties with the South through action and not just through words. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
A former NBA player Dennis Rodman has apologized for suggesting that Korean-American missionary Kenneth Bae deserved what he got when he was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor in North Korea.
In a statement released through his publicist, Rodman said he was sorry to Bae's family and that he had been drinking and was very stressed when he made the comments during a CNN interview earlier this week. The family of Bae said they were outraged by the NBA Hall of Famer's comments, and they weren't the only ones. In fact, Rodman's behavior since arriving in Pyongyang earlier this week has been raising eyebrows across the globe. Take a look at this.
Happy birthday to you.
That's Rodman singing Happy Birthday to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during an exhibition match between former NBA players and a North Korean team. This was Rodman's fourth trip to North Korea since February last year. And the diplomatic row between China and Japan is entering a new phase.
While Beijing is whipping up global condemnation of Japanese Prime Minister Abe's controversial war shrine visit, Tokyo is in full-on defense mode, issuing explanations to world leaders whenever and wherever it can. Han Da-eun tells us more.
What started out as bickering between China and Japan over Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's visit to the Yasukuni Shrine is quickly morphing into a high-level diplomatic war of words. The shrine is highly controversial as it honors several Class A war criminals as well as scores of those found guilty of lesser crimes. Chinese diplomats are using all possible channels to ensure the world knows full well that Abe's visit was unacceptable, while Japanese officials are busy justifying Abe's move whenever they have a chance to sit down with world leaders. China's ambassador to the U.S., Cui Tiankai, during a press hearing, criticized Abe, saying he should take full responsibility for the deterioration of China-Japan relations, while the ambassador to Canada, Zhang Junsai, also condemned the visit during an interview with a local media outlet. Chinese ambassador to Britain, Liu Xiaoming, went even further. In a letter published in Britain's Daily Telegraph, Liu compared Abe's visit to an evil wizard of the Harry Potter series, saying, "If militarism is like the haunting Voldemort of Japan, the Yasukuni Shrine in Tokyo is a kind of Horcrux, representing the darkest parts of that nation's soul." Japan is mounting a strong defense to China's diplomatic offensive. Japan's Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida, during a trip to Europe earlier this week, told his Spanish counterpart that Abe visited the shrine to console the nation's war dead, as well as to make a pledge that Japan will never trigger a war again. Although Tokyo's #1 ally, the U.S., has already expressed its disappointment, Japanese diplomats are busy attempting to soothe ties with Washington. Against such a backdrop, Japan's director nominee of the newly established National Security Council, Shotaro Yachi's visit to Washington next week is gaining more attention than it might have done before. Experts say China and Japan's row has the potential to become even more emotionally charged, as the two nations' foreign policies are based on strong nationalism. And this, they say, would further escalate already heightened tensions in Northeast Asia. Handan, Arirang News.
At the nation's top office, President Park Geun-hye's first overseas trip of the new year will take her to India and Switzerland.
She will embark on a 9-day tour of the two nations next Wednesday. Our presidential office correspondent Geun-hye has the details.
The creative economy will be the key theme of President Park's trip to India and Switzerland. The concept encourages collaboration between creative ideas and the science and technology sector to produce new growth engines for the economy. In India, President Park is scheduled to hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, and the two are expected to discuss cooperation in the sectors of security, trade and investment, and most importantly, science and information communications technology, the key parts of a creative economy. Further cooperation in this field with India, a huge market with a population of 1.2 billion, is expected to give a boost to President Park's vision for a creative economy, which is one of the major goals of her 3-year economic reform plan unveiled earlier this week. In the Swiss capital of Bern, President Park will hold a bilateral summit with President of the Swiss Confederation, Didier Burkhalter, and the two are expected to seek ways to expand cooperation in various fields, especially science and technology and vocational training, sectors that are strengths for the European country. President Park's trip marks the first state visit by a Korean president to Switzerland. During her stay in that country, she will also attend the World Economic Forum in Davos and give a keynote speech on the creative economy and entrepreneurship. The presidential office of Chung Won-tae says President Park plans to introduce her economic reform plan, which centers around the creative economy, and promote Korea's economic and investment environment to bring more foreign businesses to the country. Geun-hye, Arirang News.
Before your day ends and another begins, get the latest news live from Seoul.
Residents whose features
restrictions is on the rise.
closing ceremony.
Expert analysis from Asia's heartbeat.
The legislature circumstances.
With a viewpoint only Korea's global network can provide.
The United States, the latest report. Less than
Unrivaled access from a team always on standby.
Came on the news are trying to cover up the South.
Korea's central bank has left its key interest rate unchanged at 2.5% for the 8th straight month in January, citing improving economic conditions at home and abroad. The bank has also kept its growth forecast of 3.8% for the nation's economy this year. Our Hwang Sung-hee has more.
Some economists have been betting on a rate cut this month, but that did not happen. Following its monthly monetary policy meeting on Thursday, the central bank kept its key interest rate steady at 2.5% for the 8th straight month. The bank said the local and global economies are showing clearer signs of recovery. It added that the Korean economy is very close to reaching its potential growth rate of nearly 4%, offering a growth outlook of 3.8% for this year and 4% for next year.
If the government works on improving its structural productivity by easing regulations, for example, the local economy will be able to achieve a growth rate of nearly 4%.
Despite the recovery momentum, the bank revised down the nation's inflation rate estimate for this year to 2.3%, down 0.2 percentage points from its October forecast.
The nation's low inflation rate stems from prices for international oil, commodities, and domestic agricultural goods that are stabilizing.
The central bank board's unanimous decision to hold the key rate came amid concerns of a rapid strengthening of the Korean won against the Japanese currency and lingering uncertainty stemming from the U.S. Federal Reserve's decision last month to scale back its bond buying program. The weak yen, which lost a fifth of its value against the won last year, is a major concern among policymakers as it erodes the price competitiveness of Korean exporters against their Japanese rivals.
The BOK governor, however, downplayed the possibility that the bank might adopt policy measures to tackle the weakening Japanese yen, saying that only certain industries like automobiles, steel, and machinery are taking a hit from the yen's fall. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Korea has its sights on luring more foreign direct investment to boost the local economy. From tax breaks to visa extensions, our Kim Min-ji outlines how the government is sweetening the offer.
The Korean government on Thursday unveiled a set of measures to draw more foreign direct investment to the nation in a bid to spur economic growth by boosting production and creating jobs. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy's blueprint includes a relaxation of regulations on foreign investment and incentives to encourage global companies to set up their headquarters in Korea. First, the government plans to ease and clarify foreign investment regulations. Many economists have pointed out that one of the biggest obstacles to foreign investment in Korea is the maze of confusing regulations on overseas investors. The government also plans to encourage global enterprises to establish regional headquarters and research and development centers in Korea. For all foreign employees at the headquarters, the government will fix the income tax rate at 17% and extend their visa status to a maximum of 5 years. The blueprint also includes a series of incentives for foreign investors, including quality of life improvements. Finally, the government also plans to map out strategies to attract more foreign investment in the future. Although Korea has seen the amount of foreign direct investment jump in recent years, the country is still far behind other global players. In 2012, foreign direct investment in Korea came to $147 billion, far below the U.S., which had $3.9 trillion, and Britain at $1.3 trillion. In addition, Korea's foreign direct investment in terms of GDP is the lowest in the OECD. FDI accounted for just 12.7% of GDP in 2012. That puts Korea second to last among the 34 OECD countries and far below top-ranking countries such as Luxembourg, Ireland, and Britain. But with the newly announced plan, Korea is now aiming to become one of the world's top 10 investment destinations in the coming years. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Outbound shipments of information and communications technology products from Korea reached a record high in 2013, as did the trade surplus in the sector. The Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning said Thursday that ICT exports last year hit nearly $170 billion. That's more than 9% jump on year. Meanwhile, the trade surplus in the sector surged 14% to $88 billion on year, with imports rising by 3.5%. 9.7%. The ICT sector in 2013 made up 30% of Korea's total exports, with semiconductors and mobile phones leading the pack. Now, China was the most popular destination for Korean ICT products last year. In fact, 2013 was the 12th consecutive year of growth for shipments of ICT goods heading to China.
The next 12 months promises to be another vintage year for sports, and to help you plan ahead, our Song Ji-sun joins us in the studio to highlight what you need to have in your calendar.
All right, Ji-sun, welcome. Let's start with Sochi Winter Olympics. It's just around the corner. How is Team Korea shaping up?
Good evening, guys. We are now less than 1 month away from the Winter Games in Sochi, a resort city on the Black Sea in the southwest of Russia. After finishing off the Winter Games in Vancouver 4 years ago on a high note, we're seeing a number of returning champions from Team Korea. Of course, superstar figure skater Kim Yeon-ha has the best shot at winning a second gold at the Olympics in Sochi, finished the national championship this past Sunday at just less than 1 point short of Vancouver's score of 228 points. And our speed skating trio is back, faster and stronger. Lee Sang-hwa has been unstoppable, setting a new world record in November. Mo Tae-bum, also known as Motorbum, is the current world champion in the 500-meter. And Lee Seung-hoon, the former short track speed skater, is after golds in both the 5 and 10,000-meter races. After the opening weekend, the speed skating trio and the short track skaters will kick off their races. Although Korean athletes have never won a medal on the snow, we have the 2013 Rookie of the Year, mogul skier Choi Jae-woo, who has been in the top 10 in the World Cup Series last season. A few days before the closing ceremony, Kim Yeon-ha will be looking at the end of her unparalleled skating career, hoping to once again top her own world record, thanks to her last free skating program, the Tango Adios No Nino.
So now let's look further to the summer. Brazil is gearing up for the 2014 World Cup.
Exactly. The 5-time World Cup champion is now hosting the 2014 Games for the second time since 1950. And we saw the final group draw just last month. Now let's check out the groups. One of the toughest groups is thought to be Group D, maybe stand for DES, where the 4 teams, 2 from South America and 2 from Europe, those being Italy and England, Uruguay and Costa Rica, must fight to make it to first or second. Also take a closer look at Group G, because Korea will be confronting one of these 4s, the Germany, Portugal, Ghana, and the USA in the round of 16 if we do advance. Korea sits in Group H, where no team stands out from the pack, but Team Korea entered the tournament ranked 54th in the FIFA rankings, the lowest in the group. Belgium is 11th, while Russia and Algeria are ranked 22nd and 26th respectively. Coach Hong Myung-bo is setting up a base camp at Foz de Iguazu on the border by Argentina, where the world-famous Iguazu Falls are. Now, the first match against Russia will be the key in regards to both points and the confidence level of Korean footballers for the remaining games. After Korea's second match versus Algeria in Porto Alegre, the third to 4 teams will gather to facing the last shot to get into the second stage. Those to advance to the round of 16 will play on the 30th of June or 1st of July. And we'll be bringing the latest results over the summer, so look forward to that too.
Right, Ji-sun, and we hear that Korea is busy making last-minute preparations for a mega sporting event here in the nation. Can you tell us more?
Right, here at home, Korea's port city of Incheon will be hosting the Asian Games of the 2014 at just 40 kilometers west of the capital. And we're expecting some 13,000 athletes and officials from 45 different countries. It's worth mentioning North Korea may be one of those nations. Now, 28 Olympic sports plus 8 others on the lineup, including baseball, bowling, and squash and sepak takraw. You cannot see those games elsewhere. Now, rhythmic gymnast Ho Yeon-jae will be looking into the medal, and artistic gymnast Yang Hak-sun, who has his own technique named after him, has a sure shot at gold at the Asian Games as reigning world champion in vault. Olympian Park Tae-hwan will be competing in the swimming venue named after him in Incheon. In fact, they just started selling tickets this Tuesday, so hurry up to book your tickets now to catch these stars at Asia's biggest sporting event.
So certainly a lot of opportunities for Team Korea. What kind of medal goals have they set for themselves?
Right, for the Sochi Winter Olympic Games, Team Korea is hoping to finish 7th overall in the medal count with at least 4 gold medals. Now, Korea was 5th in Vancouver with 6 golds and 6 silvers. For the Brazil World Cup, making it to the round of 16 is of course the foremost goal, but some say the round of 8 could also be in the picture depending on the opponent for the match. And for the Asian Games, we're shooting for an all-around second for the 5th straight time, most likely after China.
All right, Chisana, we'll certainly be keeping a close eye on the games and also rooting for Korea. Thank you very much for that report.
Thank you.
And South Korea is poised to have its most successful Winter Olympics to date.
That's because they're expected to send their largest delegation this time around. Stephen Che joins us with the details. Hello there.
Hey guys, speed skating has long been a strength for South Korea, as has figure skating in recent years because of Kim Yeon-ha. But now the list of winter sports that they excel in is growing. The luge, in which the athlete lays face up and feet first on a sled, is one of them. The International Luge Federation said that South Korea has qualified in all 4 luge disciplines at the Sochi Games: men's singles, women's singles, men's doubles, and the team relay events. And the bobsleigh team is making tracks as well. At the North American Cup at Lake Placid, the team of Won Yun-jong and Seo Young-woo won the gold medal, while fellow nationals Kim Dong-hyun and Chun Jung-lin nabbed the silver. And now with the result, South Korea is likely to send 2 teams to compete in the 2-man sport at Sochi. Now moving on to golf, the LPGA is making it a little bit sweeter to be a golfer on its tour. They unveiled the Race to the CME Globe, a new points race that pays out a whopping $1 billion prize to the winner. They'll get rid of the 4-tournament system, and the women will earn points for their performance in 31 events up until the CME Group Tour Championship in late November, with the $1 million going to the top points getter. Now let's get to Thursday's top matches. First, in the KBL, KCC takes down Dongbu 74-64. But let's focus on the game of the night. Now it's the top-ranked SK Knights versus the ET Land Elephants. Aaron Haynes is back for SK from his 5-game suspension. Now we go on to the first half. ET Land powers their way to a 10-point lead at the end of the second quarter. The second half's no different. The Elephants' Ricardo Powell ends with 19 points. Haynes gets 11-10 double-double in the loss, and ET Land wins 75-66. Next up, the V-League. On the men's side, Hyundai Capital takes on LIG Insurance in Cheonan. Now LIG comes out swinging, taking over the first set. But it's Hyundai Capital spiking their way back. They take the next 2. Now the fourth set, it all goes down to the team that wants it more. It's 30-28 in favor of Hyundai Capital, and they take the match 3-1. That does it for me here in the Sports Center. This has been Stephen Che. Check back at midnight for the latest in the world of sports.
Today was the coldest day of the season so far, and I hear tomorrow won't be much different.
For details, let's go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. Bo-kyung, fill us in.
Good evening, guys. The southern regions in Korea rarely fall below 0 degrees, but today all of them except for Jeju just did that. Now, a cold wave watch is effect in the central regions, and the mountains of Jeju and Dokdo could get anywhere between 5 to 30 centimeters of snow. Now, other than that, those of you in the East Coast region should continue to be aware of forest fires. Now, taking a look at the current conditions, the nation is under the influence of a high pressure front. This is why we're seeing clear skies across the country. Now, tomorrow morning will be colder than today, but temperatures will begin to rise starting tomorrow afternoon and over the weekend. So let's hang in there a little bit longer. But keep in mind that we will see another round of cold snap next week. Looking ahead at tomorrow's readings, Seoul dips to -10 degrees in the morning with a high of -1. Meanwhile, Daegu and Gwangju hit 3. Moving on to other regions, snowy Jeju makes it to 5 degrees, while Dokdo and Mount Kumgang peak at 1 and -9 degrees respectively. Well, stay warm in the cold, and I'll see you again after midnight.
And that's our broadcast on this Thursday night. I'm Yuji Hae in Seoul.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.